Here.
Rubenstein is absent. Sandberg is absent. Smith?
Here.
And Vice Chair Garcia?
Present.
Chair Clark?
Present.
We have 10 present.
We have a quorum. The next item is to consider the agenda, which is before us. We have a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Commissioner, Chair Clark, my apologies. I think I said, I named 11 commissioners, but only said 10 at the end, so it was 11 in attendance.
Thank you.
Just for the record. And then on the motion, Commissioner Boone?
Aye.
Cooper?
Aye.
Holquist?
Aye.
DeMello?
Aye.
Ginder?
Aye.
Kozak?
Here.
Nye?
Aye.
Perry?
Aye.
Smith?
Aye.
Garcia?
Aye.
And then Chair Clark.
Aye.
We have 11 ayes.
The next item is acceptance of the minutes from our last meeting on April 23rd. The minutes are included in your package, and were included in the online email, at least electronic. Is there a motion to approve?
Move Perry.
And moved and seconded. Any discussion or amendments to the minutes? Hearing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Commissioner Boone?
Aye.
Cooper?
Aye.
Holquist?
Abstain.
DeMello?
Aye.
Ginder?
Aye.
Kozak?
Aye.
Nye?
Aye.
Perry?
Aye.
Smith?
Aye.
Vice Chair Garcia?
Aye.
Chair Clark?
Aye.
We have 10 ayes and 1 abstention.
And the next item is the chair's report. As you can see, the agenda for today is limited to consideration of the appointment and confirmation process related to city officers and department heads. Although I'd like to get us to consensus on that issue if we can have consensus earlier rather than later, we would not have to submit the charter amendment for the ballot until late next spring or early next summer. So we still have time to do that, but I'd like to get that tucked away because there may be other issues coming down the pipe even for next year. As we all know, St. Paul has adopted an even year voting regime, and this is the first year, this is the year, it's on the ballot for this year or next year?
It was on the ballot last year and passed, Mr. Chair.
Okay, so it has passed.
Has passed. They're working on implementation now.
Okay, so we may know more about implementation by the end of this year or early next year, or whether there will be objection from state or other entities. But it may be something we want to consider. We had our own even year voting amendment under consideration and tabled it because it was, we thought at the time it was inconsistent with state law, and the legislature didn't change it. The legislature did not change the law, but that's always a possibility for this year. And there may also be issues arising out of the Bright Star report, which City Clerk Carl reported on several meetings ago, and I believe we're still awaiting a final draft of that report, but that's expected soon.
Correct.
Okay. So both of those things may result in additional work and discussion, whether this committee or some other committee. But our work, even if we can agree on the appointment process issues, our work for next year is not done. So, that being said, let's move on to the discussion of government structure implementation charter amendment. We've heard from each other, we've heard from the mayor, we've heard from the council. What I would like to do today, if everyone agrees, is to go around the room and just each take 2 minutes and explain where you are on this. By the way, the chart with the 3 columns that we're all used to is on the back of the first page of the report that was what I'd like to hear from you in 2 minutes, with no interruptions by anybody else, nobody speaking until everybody else has spoken, telling where you are on this, and we can see if there's any sort of consensus, if we need additional discussion. discussion. Consensus does not necessarily mean unanimity, but it means a significant majority. If we don't have a significant majority one way or the other, then we would refer it to the Charter Commission, which is this group, basically. So we'll see. But that's the way I'd like to start today, is by going around the room. You can pass if you want to. But let's just start. And I will take the liberty, discretion of the chair, of going first. I'm going to say that the left-hand column is column A, the center column is column B, and the right-hand column is column C. I prefer having the council confirm, for purposes of this amendment, all the positions that it currently confirms, including everything in column A. Let me tell you why. If I was drafting a charter, I would not draft it that way. There are some things on there that I don't think need to be confirmed by council, and other things that probably should be. But I stopped saying if I were drafting the charter from scratch a long time ago, because that never works. We have a charter that is currently not aligned with our code. I think our highest priority should be to align the charter with the code. And if the council and the mayor can't agree yet on what should be confirmed by who, the logical alternative to facilitate things and get the charter aligned with the code is to leave that alone. Kick it down the road. Let the council, it doesn't make sense to me that the council confirms the assessor, but I think we should just leave it there, and hopefully the council and the mayor will come together on this issue in the future, or things will become more clear for a future year. But for right now, I think the best step we can do to get things passed with a minimum of opposition from the council and the mayor is to just leave it alone. That's where I am. Anybody else? Mr. Perry.
Yep, I will take a bunch of different positions in you, and suggest that we go with what staff put together with the ordinance under column B. And I'm saying that because we heard that, I think very clearly, that the public was concerned about the 14 buses. And column B addresses that, while also tipping its hat to say council has some right to weigh in on the top positions. I think if we're going to stay away from a politicized city and staff, that column B does that. There's also the notion of having appointed people who are in front of the public a lot, like CPED. My experience as the head of a business association is I don't really talk to the head of CPED. I talk to their directors and so forth. And I think, again, what that does is it gets into politicizing and micromanaging by appointment those positions. So I'd like to see position or column B approved. One last thing. I think things are going to be very different come next year, and I think we will have hopefully a different sort of set of agreement between council and mayor. Right now, nobody agrees with each other. And I think that out of necessity, we will see more agreement regardless of the election results. Thanks.
Anybody else? Commissioner Hill.
Thank you, Commissioner Clegg, and everyone for being here today. I agree with Commissioner Perry's remarks. I since we last met, I did meet with, someone on the council, and we, just for coffee. And, some of I wanted to understand what this individual was thinking, about this proposed amendment, and what I, like Commissioner Perry, feel, walking away from that conversation, I am still really concerned about the whole 14 bosses, situation that will come from, this proposed amendment. I really want to make sure that we as a city are hiring department directors that are that are experts in their subject matter, position, the departments that they're led. I don't expect the, Department of Communications and Technology to be a politician. And I think when we have the council, way more in on these appointments, that jeopardizes individuals from wanting to, work in their subject matter, and then having to, really be like, I have to be a subject matter expert and someone that can talk to the public and be out there and, in front of everybody. To an extent, I agree that department directors need to have, to be public facing, but at the end of the day, they are subject matter experts. I also wanna, reiterate that we are a strong mayor system, a strong mayor system. And when we have this proposed amendment, give more confirmation authority to the council, I feel that takes that away. And that's contrary what the voters wanted, and what the voters voted for, a few years back. So, as a strong mayor system, I believe that at the end of the day, the executive should be the one that's really fully deciding who is gonna be a part of their cabinet.
Thank you. Other commissioners? Commissioner?
I guess I would agree with Commissioner DeMello. I think that we had an election where there was a charter change approving the strong mayor form of government. And so I think to effectuate that, I think that the mayor should have more power. Now, part of that concerns me because if we have a mayor that I don't agree with, maybe I think that's not a good thing. But I don't think we can look at it that way. It's like the mayor's the mayor and elections have consequences. And so I would be more in favor of, I guess, column B and having less, or the mayor would have more power to appoint people that he or she chooses to appoint without necessarily having the city council have a say in that.
Thank you, Commissioner Smith. Commissioner Holmes.
Thank you, Commissioner Clegg. I just am jumping in because I also agree with Commissioner DeMello and Commissioner Smith and Commissioner Berry. I have nothing additional to add. I think they covered all of the points very clearly. Besides agreeing we're in a strong mayor system, and I think going against that would be going against what individuals voted for. I think there's a lot of things that we can say about there not being very much clarity in what they voted for back then, but that's not where we're at now.
Commissioner Cooper.
Thank you, Chair Clegg. Mr. Chair, I agree with your comments that we are in a time of change and uncertainty about where we're going to be a year from now. The prospect of amending the charter when there's still uncertainty about where the mayor and where the council are going to be in their policies and their viewpoints a year from now concerns me, because I think the charter should be more of a steady, more of a set document, and the ordinance is what can change around that. And so I feel like there's not a lot of information that we have now that we'll have soon. And it concerns me to make a decision with 40% of the information on a document that really we don't want to be, I mean, for the reasons that you mentioned of there are maybe other things that we want to do with the charter next year. But, you know, this is not a decision that we're going to want to revisit next year if we change the charter in terms of who appoints, or which positions are confirmed by the council. The other point I wanted to make is when Councilmember Vita was talking about the importance to her of having the opportunity to bring nominees to her ward and have them meet with members of her community and get that face time. That sounded really important to her. That's for her constituents. Sometimes that's the only opportunity that she has when things aren't going, you know, wrong, when there's not an emergency, to have a chance to have that direct communication and direct interaction with appointees. I think that's something that I've been thinking a lot about since our last meeting. It's something that I think it puts a lot of weight on. So I think of these options, I fall more in the camp of A for those two reasons. I think it's important that nominees have contact with constituents across the city, understand who it is that they serve, and work with the impact of the work that they do. But I also think, you know, we're making 100%, trying to make 100% decision with 40% of the information, and I'd rather wait until we have closer to 100% of the information.
So can I interpret that as your preference would be to table until we have more information, but if that were not a choice, you would support option D?
Right.
Okay. Commissioner Kozak.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I guess I'll be the lone guy out right now because my preference, it's not an overwhelming preference, but my preference is for column C. Mainly because it was, I think I led the discussion last time to add in CPED and Public Works, because I thought those two were the ones where average citizens had contact and would have reason to be in contact, particularly Public Works. Less committed to CPED. And that's still, I think I would add those in any case. But as you mentioned, Mr. Chairman, we do have the luxury of waiting. We're not going to make a decision today, as you said. And we will have the advantage next year. We have until, I believe, August to make a decision if it goes on the ballot.
A little bit earlier in the year.
July. We will have experienced one more cycle of appointments and confirmations under the current system. And so I think that's what, so we'll be at 40% you're talking about, I think what Commissioner Cooper was referring to. We'll have maybe 80% of the information. We're smart, and at 80% we should be able to make a good decision. But right now, my preference would be outline what's outlined in number C. The only two differences between B and C are CPED and Public Works. And I feel stronger about Public Works than CPED.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and members. I apologize for not being present for the conversations you all had with the mayor and with the city council. It wasn't because I didn't want to be here. Unfortunately, my schedule this summer has been a little bit more difficult than I thought it would be, and things at the legislature have been a lot more difficult than I think anybody thought that they would be. Relative to this conversation, Commissioner Kozak, it's funny that you talk about the last time we met at column C, because I remember you leading that conversation and specifically pointing out Public Works, and I think I echoed that, because I know where I live in Ward 4, so Commissioner Cooper, that was really lovely to be here. That really is the only time folks in my community, especially in the north part of Ward 4, have the opportunity to engage with departments. As far as I know, right now, Public Works has been working really hard on improving sidewalks and boulevards, and they're doing a really great job. But I struggle with not having all of the information, and so if I'm sort of forced to make a decision, I would select, I guess you could say, column C, but I'm also not wedded to CPED. I would much rather see Public Works, and so it could be B plus Public Works or C minus CPED, depending on how closely you want the groupings to be. But I would agree with comments that were made earlier that I do think at the end of the day, generally, the mayor does have the ability and should have the ability to appoint those leaders that he or she chooses. And we will have an election in 29 days? 28 days, excuse me, sorry. I've already voted, so 28 days. And we'll know who the next mayor is, hopefully. And I don't think it's ever really a good time to make these types of systems changes or systems decisions. So I would like to wait until I have 100% of the information that I think we probably need to feel really solid in whatever we pass along, whether it's to the full commission or whatever the next step is. If it's not that, I don't know if we'll get there, because there is always going to be something else that comes in. There's always going to be another issue that pops up, and so we can either come to a consensus and perhaps move on it, or I think we're probably just going to go around in circles, because it seems like that's what we've done on this issue for a while. So combination of B and C is where I'm going. But I appreciate the opportunity to weigh in, and again, I apologize for not missing those conversations. I really would have liked to have been here.
Thank you. Sure did.
As I look at this, part of this is colored by my wonderful experience watching the department head appointments and causing some of the more and the impact it has on recruitment of candidates. And I look back at the survey that we took a few years ago before we put in the executive mayor system, and the responses that we got from department heads about the then current system. So that all kind of pushes me towards the B level, that we should have a mayor that appoints basically the five. Remember this discussion, we're now also talking about the executive officers that were created by ordinance a couple of years ago. So we have executive officers, and then under B, really down to police chief and fire chief. And as I think about this, there is other information that we're likely to get that will probably help flesh some of this thought out when we get the White House, Guide House report, whatever, which is just about ready, that we asked to look at some other issues around council members that might help us a little bit in that. I don't see particular value in waiting till the election, because for me, system, or the structure that we put in, is more important than personalities. We should never divide the system for personalities. And so regardless of who's elected to the council, regardless of who's elected to the mayor, what is the government structure system that we want to see in place? So that's why my belief is B is the better. I know that as we get further into the discussion that, you know, we might, if we decide to move forward with this, we're gonna have to pass this. There are some positions in C that I could see, you know, possibly, being included in this. And when I look at those positions, I look at things such as what is the size of the department? How facing are they? How important are they actually to the community? And try and consider some of that. So, as we move along, I could be open to possible inclusion, but my inclination is towards B.
Commissioner Garcia.
I like column B the best. And having served on government structure, the previous iteration of this, one thing I'd like to say is that the form of government we had before was diffuse. We really don't have a strong mayor. We have a form of government where there's more balances, checks and balances between the executive and the legislative, but there is, I would say there's not overtly power given to the mayor for me to at least call it a strong mayor. I think that department heads, whether they're nominees or department heads, should always be welcomed into all of the wards. There's nothing that's ever been contrary to that. And I think given the enhanced orientation that council gets, it's been run to a week as far as I understand. That's something that could be underscored, that, because people in the departments really ought to know people and the issues, not just the issues, but the people that are being served. And I don't necessarily, my view on the public-facing departments is that public works could be in the summer because of garbage, in the winter because of snow. CPED could be, it all depends on the issues and what's going on, what time of year, what's going on, is there, you know, what's going on in the economy as to what positions are forward-facing. And I think all the department heads are still accountable to HR and to the HR policies and standards. And that it's not that they don't lack accountability, but I think that we do need to professionalize the appointment process. My leaning towards B is because it's an ordinance. And again, I mean, the charter really is something that stands on its own regardless of personalities, regardless of who's elected. It was voted in by ordinance. Whatever that council makeup was, it was still voted in by ordinance. And I agree with Commissioner Ginder that whatever happens in this election, that's not what our task is. Our task is to look at the charter as a document, not at personalities, not at what will somebody think, what will this, that is not what we're looking at. So, in short, I just believe that my service on the government structure work group before just underscores what City Council already voted in ordinance.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Hewitt.
Mr. Chair, I've been listening to all of the conversation, and, the thing that strikes me is, if we were having this conversation 10 years ago, 20 years ago, would our thoughts be different? Even 5 years ago, would our thoughts be different? Are we trying to solve a problem with this that really should not be solved by a decision around government structure? And if that's the case, then we need to step back and we need to actually think about what we're doing and why we're doing it and make a decision accordingly. In being asked which of these configurations would I choose, for reasons that I've already stated, I would choose C, because it is the experts or the officials that are would be confirmed by council under this plan are the public facing entities, and I really feel as though there's that it's important to make sure that there's a broad oversight in terms of who's selected and how. I do think that, I don't believe that this structure would diminish the strong mayor structure at all. Those are my thoughts.
Thank you, Commissioner. Well, of the people who expressed preferences, which was everyone, there were 6 votes for option B, 3 votes for option C, and 2 votes for option A. But collectively, that means there were 6 votes for option B and 5 votes for something else. So that's not an overwhelming consensus. But I'm wondering if there's an opportunity for compromise. A couple of people who preferred option B said, well, they wouldn't object to having the public works director there. And a couple of people who spoke for option C said, well, they wouldn't mind if the CPAD director wasn't included. So I wonder if there's a hybrid B-C combination that might carry the day. So including public works, but not CPAD.
Mr. Chair, a couple things also I think we should consider is, we currently have 5 seats that are being reapplied for.
On the Charter Commission.
On the Charter Commission. So the composition of this body, January 1st, may not be the exact same composition that we have right now. So it's just kind of something in the background to think about as we do it. So one of the advantages, I think, having this discussion is we've got a little bit more clarity on where some members are standing. I think it's the first time we've had that. And I think that's valuable in itself, just to kind of get this sense of where we're at on this. The card players, I inkled that there might be something that I consider, it's not a strong inkle, but it's something that as we get to this, as we move forward, there may be some movement on some part. If you look at, it's a small movement for me.
I think I'm just really struggling with the confirmation process being used as an accountability mechanism. If we're using.
I'm sorry, what did you?
I'm struggling.
Close the door, please.
Oh.
Michael.
I got it.
I'll help.
I think I'm struggling with the confirmation process being used as an accountability mechanism. It's a one-time, mechanism to go out into the community. I really see Public Works and CPAD as being necessary as, these individuals should be in the community. That is in their job descriptions, and if it's not, it should be. That's beyond our scope to address. And if we're making these choices of who to confirm and who not to confirm as an accountability mechanism, I just think this is a bad accountability mechanism. And so like, that's not, back to what Commissioner Boone was saying, if that's why we're making these choices, that might not be a good reason to make these choices, and then we need to revisit why we're making these choices. So that's why I feel pretty strongly about B, because I feel like the city operations officer and the community safety commissioner should be overseeing these directors and executive directors and making sure that they're going out into the community. If they're not going out into the community, then that's a different issue that needs to get resolved by that level of leadership and HR, because they're not completing their responsibilities. I don't think there's a reason why the confirmation process should be the trigger for a relationship between the mayor's office and the directors, and I think that's also a bad trigger. Like, that's not a good relationship to be entering into anyways. So that is why I feel so strongly about B.
Mr. Chair?
Commissioner Perry.
Yeah, so I agree with Commissioner Holmquist. I feel pretty strongly, and I may be fortunate that my council member regularly brings in department heads for quarterly or more frequently for public meetings. And so I don't look at this as an accountability mechanism either. And I don't think it cuts off access to that person. Like, if Public Works is not appointed by the council, then they're never seen again. I don't see that at all. I think that would not happen. So I like the compromise, but I feel pretty strongly on sticking with B for the reasons that Commissioner Holmquist outlined.
Commissioner Cooper.
Thanks. Yeah. So I agree. I don't like the word like accountability, because I agree it's not like, you know, it's a prospective. It's at the beginning of potentially these officers' tenures, so it's not like a retrospective, you know, post facto accountability thing. But I think of it more as like expectation settings, and that's like what I was hearing from a number of the council members during that meeting, was that like this is an opportunity for them for the council member to show the people who are likely going to be in this role, like what are the specific issues that we have in the community. I'm thinking about like in Linden Hills, there's a little roundabout that's not actually a roundabout that is always getting run over by delivery trucks. And like, I think it's important that my council member has Public Works down to say like, no, like the reflective signs that you have up right now, like are not working. And like, I think that kind of expectation setting, like here are the specific issues in the board. That's what I view it as, not so much like accountability as it is like a prospective expectation setting. Like, these are the issues that we have in the board, and here's how I'd like to go about, you know, making sure they're top of mind.
Commissioner Kozak.
Mr. Chairman, I think that I agree.
Sorry, no. I was trying to get attention. Sorry.
You know, I agree that the confirmation process should not be the accountability mechanism. And, you know, having worked in the executive branch, state government, I watched the confirmation process a governor has to go through. And the object of the Strong Mayor Amendment that was enacted and passed back in 21 was to have a bright line between executive and legislative. But confirmations are traditionally part of the separation of powers and you know, a lot of it depends on who the players are, the mayor, who the appointee is. But that appointee can ignore this, even if they were confirmed, they could ignore the city council at their own risk. Because ultimately, the accountability is gonna be with the mayor and with the, city, what do we call it now? The new city coordinator. So I think adding like Public Works is, I think, extremely important. It's the one agency that most citizens are gonna have, at least want to have some interaction with, if it's garbage or the streets or whatever. And the council, I think, should have the prerogative of at least seeing who's gonna be the new person, and having the ability to raise questions. And but that's really the end of the council's official act of participation in that process. And after that, anything goes. And if you watch Commissioner Garcia's part of the executive branch, and you know what happens with confirmations or non-confirmations, but it's something, it's a one-time thing, and then once it's passed, you're back to the players and how they perform and how they interact. So I think, but I do have some strong feelings about Public Works, because it is such a key thing. Maybe I think it's strong. I have a strong feeling because this is the season where we deal with Public Works every day, when we try to figure out how to get around the detours. Now we're better than St. Paul, there's no doubt about it. But anyway, I just think that I have some strong feeling. CPED, as I said, I'm willing to, I could be talked out of that, but Public Works, I have some strong feeling. I think the council has not the right, but at least it's appropriate for them to have at least initial oversight of who's going to be in charge.
Mr. Nye.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Commissioner Holmquist, it's very nice to meet you. I'm sorry that we haven't met until now. And I would agree, I don't think it's necessarily about accountability, but I live in a ward that typically doesn't get a lot of state or citywide or statewide candidates out door knocking or engaging as candidates. I mean, they have specific events that they'll come out, and so what I'd like to see is just a modicum of interest from the leaders of departments in Ward 4, especially the northern part of Ward 4, which is where I live. I think before I voted, which again, not like a scientific test of how candidates are engaging this election, but it's since I've lived in Ward 4, I think I got one flyer, and then I've gotten a few texts, but we just don't get engaged because we're a low voter turnout district. But you don't. But if I weren't so engaged in government and politics already, I don't know if I would show up either. And so, I love that that Councilmember Vita loves bringing leaders to our ward, because I don't know if they would come otherwise. And I don't know if they would know about the issues that matter to folks in Shingle Creek or Victory or the other, I would say, distinct parts of our Ward 4 community. And so, now is that going to change with this? Probably not. I've been talking about it for a number of years, and I get the same response. It's because Ward 4 doesn't vote, which is really disappointing. And I know that's not the topic of this conversation, but it sort of felt like it was rolling into that. And but like Commissioner Kozak, I'm sort of changing my mind a little bit. I'm going a little bit more towards the stronger C, or at least keeping the Director of Public Works, just because that is how a lot of folks engage with the city on things like trash. I mean, they're not fun things, but they're things that help people live their lives easier and make their lives easier. And I think that's what we should be asking, right? Like, is any of this, are these changes going to make Minneapolitans' lives easier? Like the regular, not those of us in this room who are like jonesing for the city ordinances and the city charter, and Andy or Commissioner Kozak and I who work at the Capitol in St. Paul. I almost forgot the word. But will the systems change make the systems that run our city function better or function easier, or ensure that, you know, the single mom with 2 kids has better access to bus services? I mean, maybe that's some of the information that Commissioner Cooper was talking about that we don't have yet. But and now maybe I'm just speaking like an idealist, or maybe I'm just naive, but I do think that it's not about accountability. It's about, again, that modicum of interest in part of the city that often gets overlooked. And I'm proud to be from North Minneapolis, and I love my community. So, yeah, thanks.
I think Commissioner Smith was first.
And then Peter.
Right. I was gonna comment about the Public Works position. I wouldn't have a problem if we decided that the Public Works Director should be approved by the council, but my thought is that I think I would leave the Public Works Director out. And the reason is that when we think about the police chief or the community safety commissioner or the city operations director, I think what they bring to the table and their vision for leading their departments, there's a lot of discretion that they're gonna exercise, and it's gonna be very important. I think that's less true of the Public Works Department. I mean, it's a huge department, it has a huge budget, but I think regardless of who the Public Works Director is, we kind of all have the same expectations that we're gonna have good streets, and we're gonna have sewer and water, and we're gonna have garbage collection, we're gonna have refuse. I just don't know if there's a lot of policy decisions that go into what the Public Works Director does. Maybe I'm done, or maybe I'm wrong about that, but I guess I would not see the need for that position to be approved by the city council.
I'll make this short. So when I look at this, ultimately the end goal is, are city services being delivered to residents? Period. And if they're not, what happens? So if my street wasn't plowed, my first inclination is, well, maybe I'm not an average person anymore, but would be like, hey, I'm gonna call the person I elected to help me with this. My first inclination wouldn't be like, oh, I'm gonna call the director of public works, or I'm gonna call. Part of being a council member is their job is to link their voters, their constituents, with city services and directories, period. And I feel like it shouldn't be an accountability issue, but it is turning into one. Because there is rhetoric out there that says, I'm a council member and I was told by someone from the mayor's office said that this department director couldn't connect with me. And that's out there, that's the reality of what's going on, I think, with all the disconnect. It shouldn't be about accountability, it's turning into accountability. It really should be about getting city services to residents and being that connecting point. And when I look at this, I'm just like, okay, when your garbage doesn't get picked up, when the snow plow doesn't come through your street at the end of at the end of a week-long snowstorm, who do we go to? Who do we talk to? Who makes the ultimate decision? And it is the department director, and that department director's boss is the mayor. So I think that's something we really need to make sure that we all understand with column B. And again, I'm not married to column B, it is my favorite. If, we do need to compromise shifting director of public works. Yes, it is a very forward-facing department. From one C to B, B to C, I'm very open to that, but I feel like at this point in time, we should make a decision. I know just because there is gonna be new leadership in the next month or so, it shouldn't really change the way how our city should function. And I do believe at the end of the day, when you have a situation, when you have 14 bosses and you're a department director, it's gonna be hard to keep people wanting to work for the city.
Commissioner Kinder, then Commissioner Garcia, and then we'll.
I just wanted to say kind of quickly, I think this idea about neighborhood meetings is a little bit of a red herring in the sense of if the council member has an issue in the ward and it involves a department, they often and have the ability to hold a meeting and say, we're gonna hold a meeting about whatever this issue, whether it's prostitution on the streets, whether it's garbage not getting picked up, whatever it is, and they ask representatives of the departments that influence that decision to come there. And departments historically have always sent a representative. It may not be the department head, sometimes it is, but often it's a high level person in the department to go and explain to the neighborhood, you know, why things are done this way. I mean, it's not, it sometimes uses a shift to get it off onto the department and away from the council member, but, you know, they respond to that because the council still has, even in the strong mayor system, the executive mayor system still has control in the sense of they set budgets, they set overarching policies. So it's not like this is your one time they touch a department head at the appointment process and it's gloves off after that. There's still interactions. And I understand, you know, your feelings if you don't have that same response in your ward, but many wards have numerous neighborhood meetings where they'll have staff coming in from several departments on whatever the particular issue is. And so I just think tying that up too closely with the appointment process is just a little bit of a disconnect.
Commissioner Garcia.
I completely agree with Commissioner Holmquist. I agree on point with everything. Including the fact that if the appointment process is the keystone on which the relationship between the mayor and the city council is based, then something is greatly wrong. And I am still on B. I still think that all city department heads ought to be the bright line between executive mayor, legislative council is for the council to have more time for their constituents to be legislative, and if all department heads should go out into the communities, and that's part of constituency services. That's also part of why council has the staff they have. That's also why the legislative department has staff, was something that was part of the government structure. And my personal view, which is not what I base this on, is that lower voter turnout, the more socioeconomic diversity should be the priority areas for department heads to get out and visit, just because of that dynamic.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Mr.
Here's
Chair.
what go ahead.
I'll keep this brief because I know you want to wrap up or get to the next step. Ultimately, I want to bring us back to just the fact that what drove a lot of this was the research done by both you and Jill that said we don't want to have multiple bosses, the 14 boss problem. And this is a compromise, B is a compromise to that. I'll just leave it there.
Well, first thing that is clear to me is that option A should drop off the table. There's not support for option B. I would suggest we take this time a vote with the two options being B or C to report to the full charter commission. it is not likely, I don't think, that there will be a clear consensus. And I would like to move it to the full charter commission, which is all of us, and the other people who are absent. To get to a binding decision, it has to be the charter commission acting, not this commission. So I would like us to take a vote, everyone votes for B or C. We report that vote to the full charter commission. It might be very close, at which point the charter commission will have to make up its mind or compromise. Is that okay with everyone?
Yep.
Mr. Chair, can I ask a clarifying question?
Yes.
So then, will the full council be discussing this at the December,
No, the charter commission.
or the charter, what did I say?
You said the council.
Oh, gosh. Will the charter commission be discussing this? I'm on like 3 different things, sorry, different names. Will the charter commission, the full charter commission, be discussing this then at the December meeting?
We will be discussing it our next meeting. Is that in December?
Our next scheduled meeting is in December. Depending on when the other report is done, there's a possibility that I might call a meeting for November,
Okay.
just because that adds some other background to this discussion. Depending on that, of course, this is a December meeting, possibly November meeting.
Okay, but it wouldn't be after that?
No.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, so we'll proceed. We'll have the clerk call the roll, and when your name is called, vote B or C.
Commissioner Boone?
C.
Cooper?
C.
Holquist?
B.
DeMillo?
B.
Kinder?
B.
Kozak?
C.
Nye?
C.
Perry?
B.
Smith?
B.
Vice Chair Garcia?
B.
And Chair Clark?
C.
We have 5 Cs and 6 Bs.
So we will report that out to the full charter commission and let them figure it out.
Yeah.
We'll
Solve
have
the
to
problem
figure it out,
created.
yeah.
those guys.
I have a quick question. Is it, I'm sorry for making more. Is it too late to move public works from option C to option
Let's leave it to the commission.
Yes. Okay.
That's what we're talking about.
Yeah, I tried that.
I said I'd be fine with that.
We can discuss it, that's still an option. We're not saying calling the commission.
I can get on board with that.
We're telling what this committee.
We're not done yet, Commissioner Cozen. Don't be rushing out of here, my friend.
Oh, we have one more item?
I don't know.
All right, so as we discussed, there could be other issues for us, depending upon the, even your elections issue in St. Paul, and depending upon the consultant's report that we will be seeing shortly. But as far as this issue is concerned, we're going to report to the full charter commission at its November or December meeting, and hopefully the charter commission, at least with respect to the appointments issue, have a firm proposal ready to go for next year. Are there any questions or comments? If not, a motion to adjourn is in order.
Moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.